I've never forgotten the look on her face when I made that joke. We had been standing outside a small coffee shop in Seattle, watching rain paint silver lines across the streets, both pretending life hadn't exhausted us. I smiled and said, "I'll pretend to be your boyfriend." I expected her to laugh. Instead, she looked straight into my eyes and quietly replied, "We'll need practice. No one will buy it." In that single moment, what started as a harmless joke became the beginning of a story neither of us was prepared to live. Sometimes, the greatest love stories don't begin with a confession. They begin with two lonely hearts trying to convince the world of something that isn't true, only to discover it has been true all along. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and genuine love can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that stay with you long after they end. My name is Nathan, and at 29 I believed life had become predictable. I worked as a graphic designer in Seattle, spent too many evenings eating takeout alone, and had convinced myself that real love belonged in movies, not ordinary lives like mine. Then, there was Claire. She worked in the same office building, but for a different company. We often crossed paths in the lobby, exchanged small smiles in the elevator, and occasionally shared lunch when our schedules matched. She was funny without trying, thoughtful without seeking attention, and carried a sadness behind her smile that made me wonder what storms she had survived. Over months, our friendship grew naturally. We never rushed anything. We learned each other's favorite coffee orders, celebrated small victories, and quietly supported one another during difficult days. Claire had recently ended a painful engagement after discovering years of lies. Her family, however, refused to accept that decision. Every family gathering became another reminder that she was still single, another parade of uncomfortable questions and unwanted sympathy. One Friday afternoon, Claire admitted that her younger sister's engagement party was only a week away. Nearly every relative would be there, including those who never missed an opportunity to remind her that she was running out of time. She laughed while telling me the story, but her eyes betrayed the truth. She was terrified of facing them alone. Trying to lighten the mood, I grinned and casually said that I could pretend to be her boyfriend for the evening. I expected her to roll her eyes. Instead, she answered with complete seriousness that we would need practice because nobody would believe it otherwise. We both burst into laughter, yet neither of us realized we had already agreed. The following week became strangely unforgettable. We met after work almost every evening. We practiced holding hands without looking. Awkward. We rehearsed imaginary stories about how we had met. We learned tiny details about one another that ordinary friends rarely asked. Favorite childhood memories, biggest regrets, secret dreams, fears we never admitted aloud. Somewhere between pretending to know each other and actually learning each other's hearts, something quietly changed. The engagement party arrived on a bright Saturday afternoon. Claire introduced me confidently as her boyfriend, and surprisingly, everyone believed her. Her parents welcomed me warmly. Her relatives stopped asking painful questions. For the first time in months, I watched genuine peace replace the anxiety on her face. Seeing her laugh freely made every awkward rehearsal worthwhile. But pretending became harder with every passing hour. Whenever Claire instinctively reached for my hand, it no longer felt like acting. Whenever she smiled at me across the room, my heart forgot this was only temporary. I began fearing the end of the evening, because I knew that once we drove home, everything would return to normal. Several weeks passed after the party, yet neither of us mentioned ending the arrangement. We continued attending events together. Friends assumed we were dating. Co-workers teased us. Even strangers noticed the way we looked at each other. Ironically, everyone believed our relationship except the two people living inside it. Then, everything nearly fell apart. Claire received an unexpected job offer in Boston. It was everything she had dreamed of professionally: better pay, greater opportunities, a fresh beginning. She accepted before telling me because she believed our relationship wasn't real enough for my opinion to matter. When she finally shared the news, I congratulated her with a smile that hid heartbreak. That night I walked through downtown Seattle for hours, wondering why losing something imaginary hurt more than any real breakup I had experienced. Her flight was scheduled for Monday morning. On Sunday, ISYT evening, she asked if we could meet one last time at the same coffee shop where our joke had begun. Rain once again painted the streets, almost as if the city remembered everything. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, Claire admitted that pretending had become impossible because somewhere along the way she had stopped acting. She confessed that every practice smile had become real, every rehearsed touch had become comforting, and every goodbye had become something she secretly dreaded. Before I could answer, tears rolled down her cheeks. I realized I had spent months pretending not to love the woman who had quietly become the center of my world. Instead of giving a perfect speech, I simply reached for her hand, the same hand I had practiced holding weeks earlier, and told her I didn't want to pretend anymore. She didn't leave for Boston. Months later, we returned to that same coffee shop, but this time to celebrate our engagement. The place where our story had begun with a joke had become the place where our future officially started. We often laughed about how everyone else recognized our love long before we had the courage to admit it ourselves. Life doesn't always begin with fireworks or dramatic confessions. Sometimes it begins with two wounded people helping each other heal. Sometimes pretending gives frightened hearts enough time